Welcome to another exciting interview on the Kung Fu Conversations podcast with the first-time podcaster. We're very excited to have him, Sifu Jacque out of, is that Monroe, Washington? You're at Sifu today?
Yes, Monroe, Washington.
Phenomenal. Thank you for joining us, Sifu.
Well, thank you for having me on. I've listened to quite a few of your podcasts and really enjoy them.
Fantastic. Thank you. It means a lot to us. Sifu, like we ask a lot of our newcomers, especially since you're new to podcasting, would you share with the audience your Chinese martial arts Kung Fu origin story? What got you interested?
Well, I don't know how interesting my one will be because I've heard a lot of the ones that you've had on. so it might be boring, but who knows? I was born in South Africa, so I grew up in South Africa. And the first time I remember doing any form of martial arts, I must have been about 4 or 5 years old when my parents took me to do judo. And that sort of stuck in my mind all through the years because the only thing I remember about it was I went in there, we started grabbing one another and the person threw me over and I landed on my hand and hurt my hand and I was crying.
Oh no.
So that was my first experience of it. But then obviously seeing the Bruce Lee movies and that kind of thing, it's sort of you around with all your friends kicking, punching, you want to do stuff. And at that stage, the only thing available in South Africa was karate. So we went and I did karate for a number of years, off and on. And then finally, when I was in high school, I found a place that was teaching Kung Fu. And this was in Johannesburg itself, for people that are familiar with it. I lived in the southern suburbs, which was about half an hour drive to Johannesburg. It was located in Chinatown in Johannesburg. And I started going there, started doing the Kung Fu. The thing is the classes, unlike where there's a decent transport system, they didn't have a decent transport system there. So in the evenings, I'd be able to get to classes, but every after classes, I'd have to run to make the bus. And if classes ran late, I'd miss the bus going home. So a lot of times I ended up hitchhiking home or walking home.
Oh, man.
Oh,
wow.
So that happened for obviously my whole high school career kind of thing where I would be going to Kung Fu. Then after that, I ended up joining the Merchant Navy just after I got out of school. So for a year or so, I was on the ships. But just after that, I did my college and that in Cape Town. And there was a branch of this school in Cape Town. But one of the instructors there, because it never felt quite right, I've heard people talk about some systems here where they were being taught Kung Fu, but because back then there wasn't any YouTube or stuff like that where you could go and have a look and see what was real and what wasn't real. It was sort of, I think it was more corruption of karate sort of taught as Kung Fu.
Sure.
And then what happened was one of the instructors at that school went over to the UK and Sifu Derek Frearson, who's my teacher at the moment as well, he went and studied with him. And at that stage, he was doing Walum, Hong Kong style Wing Chun, and Yang style Tai Chi. And when he came back, I started studying with him. And so I studied with him for a number of years. This Sifu Derek started organizing trips to mainland China. And then in one of the trips, we ended up going to Frearson, where we met Sifu Lun Gai, who studied directly under Yip Man. And so we were fortunate enough at that stage to study with him. He's obviously passed away now. But so we did get the full system the way Yip Man had taught him, which was nice. And then in turn there at the Chunwu Sifu Ao, we got our Yang style Tai Chi from. So we've been doing Yang style Tai Chi with him as well. So we have trips. We've got another trip in November going over again to continue studying. But so that's where and then obviously that same family we get our Lukapafa from. So if you
that's the Mantis. Is that the Mantis Sifu?
No.
No, you guys do. You do. Yeah. Go ahead.
Water boxing. Yes.
Yeah.
And then we do 7-star prayer Mantis. Sifu Lee Kam Wing has now passed away, but he was based in Hong Kong. And we do obviously training last year, the year before when we went over, we trained with Lee Kam Wing in Hong Kong. And unfortunately, a couple of months later, he passed away. So we were glad to get that training session in before then as well.
Mm-hmm. That's a blessing that you guys did get to see him before.
Yes.
Yeah. Very lucky. I actually think that you have some 7-star relatives here in Boulder. There's a gentleman, familiar, Sifu Torres at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's my Kung Fu uncle.
Yeah. So that's great.
Yes.
That's great. Now you got a reason to come to Boulder. Our
Mantis system is fairly big. We've got a lot of, I've got a lot of Kung Fu uncles in the US, as well. My 7-star, cause I'm a closed door disciple with, the 9th generation closed door disciple on 7-star Mantis with, Sifu Derek Frearson.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And is that northern? Is that a northern Mantis
style? Yes, northern Mantis style.
Okay.
And then obviously in 97, that's when we came over to the US. And I know when we first came over, I couldn't start a class at that, or start a school at that time, but I did let my son do Taekwondo at the time, just to see something different.
Sure.
So he got a black belt in Taekwondo and he qualified for Junior Olympics. So,
oh, wow.
But I know a lot of the stuff, like when they taught forms and that kind of thing, I'd help him with that, because when we went to competitions, he always used to medal. And I think it was the influence on do it this way, do it that way. So it does make a difference.
Very much so. Very much so. But, what brought you to the U.S., Sifu? Can I ask?
Well, I was lucky because my dad was a U.S. citizen. But in South Africa, there's a lot of violence. You've got an unemployment rate of 57%. So when you've got so many people that are unemployed, you're going to get a lot of violence. You're going to get a lot of crime. I mean, I was amazed when we first came over here, when you go into a neighborhood, there's no high walls, there's no bars on the windows. I mean, South Africa, everyone has 6-foot high walls, razor wired or electrified fencing around the house. All your doors and windows have steel bars on.
Wow.
So and the thing is, because you're used to living like that, it's just like, oh, that's normal. And when we came over here, it was like people said, oh, there's so much crime here. And I mean, still relatively, there's nothing compared to there.
Wow. Wow.
And how did you end up in Washington?
Well, I do computer support because unfortunately Kung Fu doesn't pay the bills. So
I hear you.
I do work. Yes. When we first came over, there was a place looking for an engineer up in Seattle. So we drove up. They booked us into a hotel and we managed to, they sort of put us up, got us situated, that kind of thing, because they needed someone that could do the job. So I was lucky there.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, very much.
And obviously, ever since I've been in Washington.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what drove you besides your own passion? What drove you to teach? I mean, when you first started, was it, cause I've got a lot of friends that have done this story. Was it kind of out of the backyard, out of the garage, local parks?
Well, it was, we had cause I had a school in South Africa. We had went to the recreation center. I was teaching at a rec, there. And then eventually we had a school in Johannesburg that I taught out of. And then finally we ended up getting a house big enough where we had space in our house to be able to teach. So that was really nice.
Awesome. And you have a school now.
Yes.
In Monroe. Is that correct?
Correct.
How long has the school been open?
We've been open 11 years now.
That's great.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
And some of the videos I sent you, that's taken from inside the school. So it gives you an idea of what the school looks like.
Since I'm a little geographically off, I've got some friends in Seattle, and it's been. I've also got some friends in Sequim, which is. And then
if you're ever up here, you're really welcome to come around, and it'll be nice to meet you.
Oh, yes, I'd love to.
Yeah.
How far is Monroe from Seattle?
From Seattle, it's about a 25-minute drive.
Okay, so would you consider it like a suburb city? I'm just asking because I'm trying to get geographically. Do you have a?
Yes, a lot of people will live in Monroe and work in Seattle.
Sure. Sure. That's us. So, we live in Longmont and work in Boulder. So we get the same thing. I was just wondering because, I was like, well, it can't be that small of a town because it looks like you have a few a good sized class with plenty of students. So that's great. That's great. What does a typical class look like? Take me through a Mantis class. Take me through a Yang style Tai Chi class. Let's talk about Wing Chun. Let's start with Mantis. Yeah.
So
7-star.
So I vary the classes. So normally people that want to do hard systems will do the Mantis and the 7-star. People that'll do Tai Chi will normally do the Tai Chi. Now I've got some people that want to do all of the systems. Okay. But that varies on person to person. But typically, a Tai Chi class, I would start a warm up, just to get people all warmed up. So we've got certain exercises, twisting exercises and that to warm up the body. And then, I divide the class up to depending on the level of the students. So I like to, because I've seen some people teach Tai Chi where everyone comes in and just follows along. And I like to break it down. I teach stepping first. So I make sure that all the students can do the proper stepping. Okay. Then just using the first movements. So it's very much, I baby them through it because if you do it that way, they understand it better and they're able to execute the movements correctly. And what we do is we also do the fighting side of it as well. We don't just do the soft movements because then it's just like a dance. Then you're not actually getting any benefit from it. True. And I've got students that have been with me since I opened. Some of them started when they were 65 and they're still with me and they say they will never stop.
That's
because
great.
They can see the benefit. But I know when I first said to them, oh, well, we're going to actually learn to use to fight with it as well. They were like nervous and that kind of thing. But now they really enjoy it. It's because they see, oh, it's not that difficult. It's something they can do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you teach weapons with your Yang style Tai Chi?
Yes, we do broadsword, we do straight sword, and we do spear. I know a lot of people don't do spear. We were lucky enough, Sifu Ao had actually studied spear. Spear's not, I wouldn't say it's a form where you do it on your own. It's more a 2-person set where you learn to stick to one another when you're going through the form with the spear.
That's really cool. That's right.
Yeah.
And I know that some Yang style systems have like two-person sets. Do you have two-person sets?
I don't. The way it was originally taught, there was no two-person set. So
yeah, that's what I've heard too.
Yeah, I have things that we'll go through and do.
Mm-hmm.
I have exercises that we'll go through. So like with push hands, we'll do push hands. And then once they get used to doing push hands and changing sides and that kind of thing, we'll do push hands, and I'll say, okay, from push hands, go into grass bird's tail or repel tiger or one of those things. So they understand how to flow from one movement into the next using the system.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And very much, I think, sticking is an important thing. Because a lot of times you'll see applications where the person throws a punch and they do, now my mind's just doing parting wild horse's mane, and they knock the hand away. When that shouldn't be, it should be connecting with the hand and then flowing with that, keeping that contact so that you're constantly feeling what is happening with the other person. Because if you don't have that contact, you don't have any idea what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. I love it. That's awesome.
And the thing, we do work with energy, and I know most times when you tell someone, oh, you use energy, you can feel the energy. It's like, no, we don't think of, oh, I can stand here and hit you without touch. Right. The way I do it is we'll do an exercise where you have your palms facing one another and you can feel the energy between the palms, breathing and channeling the energy. But a good exercise I do for beginners is I'll have them stand about 2 feet away from the wall, hold their hands straight down next to their side, and then bring their hands to the wall and push against the wall, but lean their body over, keeping their body straight as well. So you're pushing as hard as you can with your arms against the wall without touching the wall until your arms are completely tired. And then what happens is once they say they can't lift their arms are really tired, I get them to step away and their arms will float up.
Sure.
And the reason for that, or the way I look at it and the way I think of it, is when you're pushing against the wall, you're using your physical muscles to push against the wall. Okay. But you're also using your energy to push against the wall. And what happens is as soon as you come away from the wall, there's a delayed reaction and your energy is still pushing against the wall. So what happens is your energy draws your arms up. And that's how I think of the way energy works. So the more you work on applying something, the more you work on applying a movement, whether it's hard system, it doesn't matter. Whether it's Tai Chi, Wing Chun, it doesn't make a difference. When you focus and punch in a specific way constantly, your energy gets used to flowing in that same way. So what happens is then when you apply it, it's not only your physical strength you're applying, you're actually applying that energy at the same time.
I like that. Mm-hmm. That's a very good, clean explanation of that. That's really cool. That's really cool. Do you guys do any, since we're on the Tai Chi topic, do you guys have any students go to, cause I know Seattle's a pretty big area with a lot of good Chinese martial arts. Do you guys do any push hand competitions or anything like that?
I haven't done any push hand competitions. I have done some push hands with some other Sifus, because coming from South Africa, there was very much no one got on with one another in the martial arts scene.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been really hesitant in getting involved with anyone other than the people that I know of on in our organization. And then I normally stay out of the politics of things. I want to work on my stuff. I want to make myself as best I can and make my students as good as they can possibly be.
That's great. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's great. So would you say that, and you were saying that this Yang Tai Chi is based in, is it the Chin Wu organization?
Well, that's where, because when Sifu Derek first went over to the UK to study with Sifu Lun Gai, Sifu Ao was one of the teachers at the Chinwu in Fushan, and that's how he met. So a lot of times when we go over, we'll train at the Chinwu Center as such, but a lot of teachers are part of the Chinwu in the different cities.
Right. Would you say that there's something unique to Sifu Ao's teaching method of his Yang style Tai Chi that you haven't really, it's just like us with our Wing Chun, it's Yip Man lineage, but it's got a different flavor. Maybe that's a good way of putting it. Would you say there's something unique about his Yang style Tai Chi that you haven't really seen other places?
Well, the way I look at it, okay, they all come from the source, okay? So if you look where Yang comes from, even Wing Chun, it comes from one place. It's just the people that have studied it that have interpreted it slightly differently. So because for Wing Chun, for instance, our Wing Chun, compared to Hong Kong style Wing Chun, some of the movements are broken down into more pieces. So there's so you're still doing the same form with the same movements in, but maybe there's a split in between on some of the movements. Second form, you repeat some of the things that they don't do in the Hong Kong version of it.
Okay.
But the movements themselves are the same. I mean, your Bong Sao, your Tan Sao, all of those are the same. So whichever teacher you're studying with, it depends on their experience of what they've gotten out of it. So whether Yip Man or his students, any of his students, you can study with 3 different of his students, and each one would interpret that same movement slightly differently. Yeah. And I figure that's the beauty of YouTube, because you can see something that maybe someone else has gotten that wasn't passed on to you, but because it's part of the system, why can't you use it? Because if it works and it works according to those principles, I will add it into what we do. So if I see training drills that I think, oh, that's a good training drill, I will take a look at it and see, does it work? Yes. And then I will incorporate it as well, because I think the more you can give your students, the more they understand what they're doing.
I like that a lot. It's almost got not just Sifu's mindset, but like a coach's mindset. It's like, okay, I'm watching this boxing coach over here and we do something similar, but he tweaks it a little bit. Why not integrate it into my own teaching to maybe be a better teacher and give the student more options? I love that. That. Yeah. Well, how about the Lihi Faba? I'm probably butchering the name of it, but the water boxing. How did you come across that?
Look up Hafa. Our Yang family in Foshan actually teaches that as well. But Sifu Ao basically wanted you to first learn the long Yang form before you actually learned that. It's supposed to be it's a mixture of Tai Chi, Bagua, and Singi. That's supposed to be the origins of the form. But it is really a great form to do. The beginning of the video that I sent you, that has me doing the Luka Pafa.
What do you find unique about it? I mean, it's an internal system with the internal mechanics, but how does it vary from your Yang style Tai Chi, and how does that variation kind of fit it?
I know it's strange to say it this way, but it almost feels something like a more complex, a more advanced system of Tai Chi.
Oh, okay.
That's how it feels when you're doing it.
Okay. Would you say that where's the complexity? Is it in the movement? Is it in the mindset? Is it in the body piece? Where would you say that lives?
I would just say it's a combination of all. It's the mind, the body, everything needs to work together. So it's a combination of your legs, arms, everything working at the same time to complete the movement. So in a way, it sort of helps with your other systems as well, because I find that whether you're doing 7-star Wing Chun or the Tai Chi, is the timing of your movements with your legs and your arms and everything should be one movement. It shouldn't be I use my arm, then I use my leg. It should be a combination of your entire body, because that way then you get the full power out of the movement as well.
Beautiful.
I find that especially like Wing Chun, doing the movements, I don't get it as much when I first started doing the forms with the Wing Chun. But once you switch onto the wooden dummy and you start feeling the pushing off the legs into the dummy and applying that, that's when you really start seeing how those movements can be used.
Yeah, the full body connection to not just it's not just this little bit here at the end of the arm.
Exactly.
It's everything behind it.
Because it's the subtle turning of the waist, the subtle pushing up of straightening the knee slightly to get that power into that strike.
I love it. Beautiful. Beautiful. I don't want to steal this show, Owen. Did you have any questions? Because I'm probably going to go over to the 7-star next here.
Yeah. No, I've always got lots of questions, but, so with the Ohubafa, does that, I don't know a lot about that system, and does it have weapons in that system?
No weapons.
Okay.
The form itself is a 64, movement. Although you say 64, you think, the long form, Yang is a lot longer. But when they talk about in 64 movements, so each movement could comprise of like 4, 5, 6 movements.
Sure.
So
Okay.
it's a really long form as well.
Okay.
Very, very cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. 7-star Mantis. That's a pretty cool system. I got to be honest with you. I've always thought that was awesome. Could you tell us a little bit about how you train your students in 7-star and how many forms are you looking at? Because I think that's a pretty large system. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it is a large system. We have hand forms. There's about 41 hand forms. There are about just over 30 weapons forms.
Wow.
Then there's partner weapons forms and partner forms. And then the 18 Loan Qigong is part of that as well.
Wow.
But, so it's a big system.
Yeah. Now Mantis doesn't really have anything, because there later on down the road, Owen and I are going to jump on this. We're going to throw a hand grenade at you and see if you catch it.
Okay.
does Mantis? Well, we know Yang style Tai Chi has the push hands. We know Wing Chun has Chi Sao. Does Mantis have anything like?
It has some drills for sticking. It has sticking drills that we go through as well with the Mantis.
Would you tell us a little bit? I have no idea about those. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about this?
What I do is, because a lot of the students, when students first come, a lot of people don't know the difference between karate, kung fu, anything like that. I mean, even if I tell a colleague, I do kung fu, then they say, you do karate.
Yeah, I get you.
They don't understand the difference.
Yeah.
That can be a bit frustrating at times. But that I think is why you get a lot of places that can open up that don't have a clue what they're teaching, but people go there thinking they're doing genuine things and then find out years later they've done something that actually is not anything of value, kind of thing. But that is the sad thing. Just going off the subject as such, because I know, like in France, they have sort of a board that sort of says, okay, you can teach, which is nice. But the nice thing about that, and I only found that afterwards because one of my Kung Fu brothers lives there and teaches there, is that the government actually will pay for competition uniforms and pay towards tuition for the students and that kind of thing, which is so
That's
nice. Great. And you think, because they see the value in giving people a way to stay healthy.
Yeah.
So
smart.
Yeah, very much so. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Anyway, so back onto the Mantis. So prayer Mantis doesn't have any basic forms in it. So because obviously of learning the Walum to start out originally, there's I have like 4 or 3 basic forms that I teach the students. 4 basic forms that I teach the students before they start doing the Mantis. So I normally do it's basically just basic stepping with blocking and punching, then a more advanced of that. So, I mean, have seen other schools do this once before, but it's like 8 punches, 8 punches, 16 hands. Those are the forms that I get them to do. And then I do Wubachan, which is a common one, just so that they get the idea of how to move their legs, that kind of thing. Teach them basic stances because the understanding how they place their feet, that they don't have their feet in a straight line, things like that. And I find a lot of places don't emphasize that, and I think that is so important because that's the grounding of your kung fu. That's the grounding of any fighting system, is that you've got a solid base, and then that you can move from that base. Because if you can move and you've got a basic, just a pak sao kind of drill, you can deflect most things coming at you. You don't need anything complicated.
Yes,
and
agreed.
So that is what I sort of start the students with, so they sort of get that the idea of stepping properly, moving in the stances, and then I work with them doing the stances low as well. And I explain to them, in a fighting situation, there's no way you're going to go in a low stance like that. But it's to develop power in your legs and strength and a flexibility and balance. And that's more the reason for doing that than anything else.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
And then what we've done is, I've got a list of our forms on our website, but what we've done is I sort of go through that list, teaching the students the forms. But when we do the forms, we actually apply those, the applications of those, how to go through them, what each piece does. So, because the thing is, you find a lot of people will think, oh, if I learn a form, the next form's going to make me a master. The next form's going to make me a master. And that's not the case. It's a matter of working on what you have and perfecting it and understanding it to the point where you can use it in any situation. And then also to be able to adjust to it, to be flexible. Okay. Just because you apply it in a certain way, if someone comes in a different way, you don't apply it in that same way. You've got to be able to adjust to what you feel and what you see.
Yeah.
That ability to adapt those things is based on circumstance is super important. I was going to ask you, when do you feel comfortable in your process? Let's focus on the Mantis stuff for just a minute. When do you feel comfortable starting to teach like application? Do you have a waiting period, or do you need people to get through certain pieces or forms, or?
Well, what I do is, as soon as I start teaching them the first form, I start going through the application of that form, because if you're doing the form, and it's just a dance to you if you don't understand what you're doing in that form. And a lot of people will mimic you, and it'll look good, but they don't have a clue what they're doing. And that is an important thing. I know, to go back on my son doing Taekwondo, and when he was in competitions, there were a couple of adults at the school that were really good. Their forms looked brilliant. Okay. And they went into competition, and when it came to sparring, they would do a kick and bounce off the person because there was no power there. There was no substance behind what they were doing. And it's got nothing to do with Taekwondo. It's got to do with the way they were shown and the way they were doing the movements.
Yep.
And that is what I think does a disservice to your students if you don't give them the very best so they can become the best. Because I always feel the better your students get, the better you become as a teacher. If you've got students that you can beat up all the time, you're not learning anything.
Yeah.
You want your students to be good.
Yes.
And by them being good, you in turn become better. You understand where structure is, how the structure needs to be. Whether it's Tai Chi, 7-star, Wing Chun, it's all about having the correct structure, having the legs in the right place, understanding that balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really great point. And, I always found that as the student gets better, it pushes, they ask better questions. They're interfacing with the material in their own way. And then they come back to you and they ask me questions all the time. And I'm like, man, I've been doing this for like 30 years. I've never thought of that. That's a great question, so it pushes me and it helps me in ways that I never expected. So yeah,
become
I
better.
really hear you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I look at each class as well, is as you're going through the class, yes, you're teaching, but you're also practicing at the same time.
Yeah.
You're putting your best in at the same time, because by putting your best in, you're gonna improve as well.
Absolutely. Yep. 100%. I love that.
That's awesome. We're on the teaching topic. I'm inserting. Here we go. Great question. Great questions on. Great responses, Sifu. So do you have assistant instructors? Do you teach people not only how to learn the application and learn what they should be feeling in their stance, their body, et cetera, but do you have it where you have either assistant instructors or something like that?
I do.
What is it? Yeah. Please.
I have two main assistants. One is my son, Kenji, who you saw on the video, and the other one is CJ Haley, one of my other instructors. Both of them are training to teach properly. I always watch how they teach, how they explain things to people. Because a lot of times I find, like, especially with new people, and I've seen that at other schools as well, when they're teaching someone new, because they've been doing it so long, they're like, oh, you punch like this and you do the movement like this, and not explaining how to hold the fist correctly, how to line up the bones correctly so that you've actually got support behind the fist. And so many people sort of show them how to punch and that kind of thing, or they punch in front of the class and the whole class punches, but no one corrects anyone saying, no, it needs to be like this. You need to hold your arm like that. And that, I think, is an important thing, because what happens is when they teach, then they teach the correct way. If they teach the same way and just stand in front and do the thing and not watch and see how the students are doing, they never learn to sort of pick up when someone's doing something wrong or when their weight is situated incorrectly on their legs, because you can see over years of training, you can tell if someone's got their weight in the front or in the back. And a lot of times people don't realize that. Even they'll be doing the form and they've done the form for years, but they've got their weight situated wrong in those movements. And you notice, especially like in Chum Kyu, because it's so basic, the stepping, you can see immediately as soon as the person throws their weight in the wrong direction. But you'd find so many teachers don't pick that up. And I try to teach them how to watch for that, how to watch for the structure, so that they can explain it correctly to the students.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. What are some of your favorite weapons, since you've got so many? It could be any system on this one, but let's just say the Mantis, because I mean, my goodness, did you say 30 weapons?
Yes, we got a lot of weapons on the Mantis. it varies on the day. Sometimes it's straight sword. Sometimes it's the meteor hammer.
Nice.
Sometimes a three-sectional. It really depends on the day and on what you're doing. The thing is with the weapons, I feel that the weapons need to be, when you're training them, obviously a lot of the movements when I start off teaching them, it's the mechanics of the movement, how to do the movement. But then once you get that part down, it's more about actually feeling the weapon as an extension of you. Okay. And one of the easiest ways I sort of explain it is like driving a car. A lot of people, when they first learn to drive a car, they get so nervous. It's like, oh, I've got to turn this corner, and you're grabbing the wheel and trying to turn and that kind of thing. And now when they come to classes and they drive to classes, if they've been driving for years, they don't even think about it. They've gotten into the car, driven here, and you ask them, do you remember turning? Then no, because it becomes natural to do that. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the thing is, when you're up that level to more advanced, a race car driver is a perfect example of it. They know where they can feel where the edge of their car is. They know how close they can push it to another car. That should be how familiar you are with your weapons. Because if you're familiar like that with your weapons, then it becomes an extension of you. You don't think of it as a separate part. Your whole body moves into that weapon.
Well said. Mm-hmm. Well said. I love that. Yeah. Any crossovers, would you say, between the Yang style like sword and maybe you guys have a straight sword Mantis as well, don't you, Sifu?
We have a straight sword Mantis, yes. So
do you find any crossover?
There is crossover. The movements. I mean, we're all 2 arms, 2 legs. There's going to be movements done similarly, slightly different, that kind of thing. So what I'll do is a lot of times in the different classes, we'll use just those specific systems. But then I will actually also have it where we can do anything. So you can switch between Mantis and Wing Chun and use Wing Chun with Mantis legs and vice versa, changing it around. So it gives the people a good idea of how to actually use all the parts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead, please.
Oh, I was going to say also like with sparring, because a lot of the things, because there's a difference between sparring and defending yourself or fighting as such in a one-on-one situation on the street kind of thing. But generally in sparring, I try to get them, because the most dangerous part is obviously before you make contact. Okay. I feel. So as soon as the person steps in and strikes, it's about making contact and then maintaining that contact. And then from that contact, striking through, controlling. It's like someone walking through mud. Okay. If you're walking on normal ground, you can walk quick. As soon as you get into that mud, you gotta pull each foot up and you get slowed down. Once you make contact, you become that mud, you become that extension. And that person becomes an extension of you. So if you understand what you're doing, you actually then become part of them. So it's so much easier to control and feel what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
In your Mantis system, do you have, is it sort of progressive? And I mean, meaning things start fairly simple and then the forms get a little more difficult and the concepts of the forms get a little more difficult.
Yes.
And then,
yes. Okay. As you go through the first form and you learn the basics there, you'll find each form has something different in that develops a different aspect of the Mantis system, which is nice because you notice this, especially when you go from one form to the next form to the next form, you can feel you can see the difference and the techniques, how they've changed.
Yeah, that's cool. That's great. Yeah. I'm always appreciative of those type of developmental skills building sets, and then how they're taught in curriculum. So, thank you for that.
Yes.
Do you guys have, like, in your Mantis, do you have a specific? There are systems that produce qualities. right? Like lifting, plucking, sweeping, those kind of things, rendering.
Yes.
That kind of stuff. Does your Mantis have like qualities?
Plucking, yes. So obviously the plucking, yes. A la Choi grabbing, striking through. Okay. Then grabbing, striking through, person blocks, sticking to that person and then flowing through from that as well. So in other words, not just like 1, 2 drills. It continues from there. So it doesn't, you don't want to, make it sort of 1, 2, 3 kind of old style drills. It really flows one, because I think because it was designed for fighting specifically and been tested for fighting, it's designed like that. So a lot of times what I'll do is we'll do the first like 4 or 5 movements and work on that as a drill over and over and over, so that it sinks in, that you can move fast in that movement. Okay. Then take the next bit and work on that. And then afterwards do it as a whole form. Because, doing the whole form, if I start at the beginning and go through the whole form and then go back and start again and do the whole form, by the time you get back, you're now sort of starting that first movement again, like so long after you've done it. Whereas if you can do it in shorter spurts, that movement becomes more natural. It becomes more automatic. You don't have to think about it. And as long as you don't have to think about it and it can flow through, it means you're going to be quicker. You don't need to say, oh, I've got to block that hand and then punch through. It can just flow.
Very nice. Very nice. Go ahead on.
No. I was going to ask if in the Mantis system again, is there sort of ancillary training? So, I know you said we were talking about sort of the footwork, and we were talking about the forms, and we were talking about sort of the sparring and the application piece. But does your system have like, some systems have like traditional Chinese weightlifting, or they do like, hand conditioning, like iron palm, or they do like iron body, or, does your system have any of that? I don't know if that's a Mantis thing or not.
We do palm training. So bags with palm training. There is medicine that we have as well that's been passed down for using after the training as well. Also bars on the wrist, where you flip the bar up and then let it roll down. So a heavy weighted bar. So it helps to strengthen the forearms. A lot of the Mantis is obviously forearms. And just out of interest, the Mantis typically is comprised of prayer mantis arms, and a lot of the footwork is from the monkey. So it's a combination of monkey and Mantis. Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
That is cool. Can you tell us a little bit? And does this come at the end of the training? Did you say, and I'm hoping not to butcher this, was it the 18 Lohan Qigong set?
Qigong, yes. That doesn't necessarily come at the end of the training. Sort of once the students have been for a while and they start understanding things more, I'll start teaching them the 18 Lohan as well.
Is that specific does that come directly out of the 7-star Mantis?
Yes. It was passed on directly from Sifu Lee Kam Wing, and it was passed on to him through the Mantis training. Yes.
And does it sort of support the Mantis training and the pieces or the skills, or is it more to help balance it?
It's to help strengthen the body. Okay. I think it's originally from Shaolin lineage wise, and that was added into the system way back. But it's to strengthen obviously different things in the body. So there's specific exercises you're doing, not martial specifically, but balance and sinking and grounding, things like that.
Awesome.
And does the system, or maybe even the Qigong, does it have does it have like breathing methods? Are there those sorts of things included in there as well? Okay.
Yes, it's all included. When to breathe in, when to hold the breath, when to breathe out, things like that.
Cool.
And is it one specific set, Sifu, or is it a bunch of little sets that you learn?
It's a bunch of little sets. So it's one piece, then there's another piece, then there's they're each breaking it up to 18. There's 18 sets in total of it. So each one you sort of have
really cool.
You stop in between, and then you can start the next one.
Oh, that's cool.
That is really cool. I love that. All right, Owen, anything on the Yang Tai Chi or the Mantis? Or is it time to, it's time it's time to crack the crab. It's fully cooked, Sifu. Tell us about how to make a food reference. It's an official show, folks. Tell us about your Wing Chun, and tell us about meeting Sifu and the story. And at some point I want to talk about Sifu Derek as well, because he seems to be a big part of your life. But tell us about your Wing Chun and what's unique about it. I love this. I'm so excited.
Well, I mean, I don't know where to start. Obviously, the first time we went to Frearson and met Sifu Lun, he was, if you've seen the pictures of him, he's most probably 5 foot, and I'm 6'5". So there's a big difference in height.
Sure.
So the first time we went, we obviously started learning the basic forms, and he used to be so precise on how to do the form, the slowness of the form. So he went a lot slower in each of the movements than you do in the standard Hong Kong version that you see. So the movements go slower, but at the end, there's a push out of energy in that last movement, whether it's the punches, whether it's the blocks, each of those, you can feel the energy actually being pushed out there. And one of the things that are different is they use the Phoenix Eye fist to punch. You're supporting the index finger with the thumb so that there's support behind it, and strike with that. And I was surprised how much power he actually had in that, because we were, because it was in China, we were training on a roof, and there was this big water tank, steel water tank on the roof, and he hit this tank and he left a dent in this tank, but it wasn't one of these tin tanks, so it was like really impressive on what he did. So that was one of the things that really I remember a lot about it. But and then it's a matter of just going through using the power in the way that he showed to sort of apply that power at the end of each movement. So your arms relaxed the whole way through, relaxed up until that point where you push it through. So that's taken a lot of time and practice. It's like working on the dummy, doing, say you do a tan sao onto the dummy, okay? As opposed to blocking across as such, we're doing the tan sao going forward, but instead of tensing the muscle up, you wind the arm up so that you sort of make it like an elastic. You twist the forearm. So that's what makes it tight, because that way it can unwind so much faster as opposed to tensing the muscle up and then releasing the tension. So a lot of the movements are designed to do that when we're practicing.
That's really, really cool.
And that way, what I find with that as well is because you're turning into that as you turn in, you can have someone really blast hard towards you, but because you're twisting into it, you're not only deflecting that, but you're not knocking their arm away. So you maintain that contact when you come in.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So you have the 3 traditional forms. You have Sianam Tao, Cham Kyu, Biu Chi. You have the dummy. You have the knife set. You have a long pole set.
Correct.
Is there anything in your drills or sequences? Because and again, for the folks that don't realize this is Yip Man lineage before Hong Kong, correct?
Yes,
Sifu?
correct.
So
correct.
And this was in Foshan, was that? This
was in Frearson.
Okay. So is there anything that you guys have or train or, that you find very unique? Because I know that one thing that you guys are proud of, which I think is really cool, is, Sifu Lun said, I never felt a reason to change the system at all that Yip Man passed on. And you guys have kept it as pure as Sifu Lun has given it to you.
Yes.
Is there anything unique in those skill sets that you find, besides maybe the twisting and the coiling? Is there like a drill set or something that you find very unique?
Other than just the way you're doing the form with that slowness, with the power at the end of each movement, that's the only thing really that I think is different. Because like I say, Wing Chun, if you trace the lineage, it all comes through. And I've done it with my students. I'll show them a form, and they'll then maybe they work on it, practice it, and they watch them, and they come 6 weeks later or something and say, "Oh, how does this look?" And it's like they've got a move in that you didn't put in there, or they took out, and it's like, "Oh no, it wasn't like that. It was supposed to be like this." And that's why I say we're all human. So down the way, it could have been passed. That's why I teach it the way it is. But I also want students, when they learn it, once they learn how to use it properly, to make it their own. Okay? Because if it never becomes yours, then it's just something that you're mimicking. Okay? By practicing the Wing Chun to an extent where that movement's yours, you feel that movement, it becomes yours, okay? And then, yes, there might be a slight difference because this person's tall, that person's short. So the movement that works on the one person's not going to work on someone else. So you want to make sure that you understand it to the ability where, okay, well, this won't work here, but then you will do this instead. And that could be the limitation sometimes when it's passed down, is because maybe the teacher only had tall people, so you didn't have to worry about someone short, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, that's the reason I say to you why I love having YouTube as a place to reference things or see how people do it. The problem is there are some people out there that have terrible stuff.
It's true.
There's a lot of that.
I mean, it was one that came up recently, and I've seen it a couple of times on my feed. It's a woman that's teaching Wing Chun, and she's supposed to be a fourth generation from Yip Man. But you see the person, she's selling a course online for a ridiculous amount. And it's, she doesn't actually, you can see by the way she's executing the movement, it's mechanical. She doesn't actually understand what she's doing. And there's people online that will go and buy that and think it's Wing Chun, and then Wing Chun gets a bad name.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Do you guys use, do you guys have Kun Kut at all? Curious.
What is that?
So, we refer to those as like, the ways of the fist or the laws of the fist, kind of thing. So I'll give you an example.
Oh, yes.
The Chem Jang Sao Jong, sunken elbow protects center line.
Yes.
I have to butcher the other ones because I don't know the Cantonese. So I stick with the English. We have like a counter force lost rush in, stop what comes, follow what goes.
Yes.
Those kind of things.
Same kind of principles as keeping the elbows in, making sure that you're on the center line, striking to the center line, making sure that the full impact is felt as opposed to the side, so it gets deflected. Yes, we do those. A lot of that, because I'm dyslexic, so I have a terrible time reading and remembering names and that kind of thing. So
No, you're good.
I'm very much a visual person, and explaining and showing people with their body structure on where to place their hands, how to do it, where to go through to. And that's how I feel is the best way to do it. I mean, I know people teach online, but I find it's difficult. It's hard enough in a class when people are doing it wrong and you show them where's the right place and they still put it in the wrong place. And it takes time for them to learn that. And online, if you don't have someone showing you all the time, change that, you start developing bad habits.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So, okay. So now we've got a good synopsis of all the systems. What is, so it sounded like you actually have open cross training in the systems. Do you guys do that, Sifu Jacque? Okay.
Yes,
would you talk about that a little bit, please?
So, a lot of times what we'll do is, have one person do Wing Chun, the other person do 7-star and spar against one another, and then change it. And then we'll have it free. So in other words, you can do whatever you like. As long as you've got balance, you can control the situation and through. And I find the sticking, you'll find a lot of times with with all the systems, okay, they can do the same application, just slightly differently. And the more you understand the system, the more you can see the similarities in those different systems. Yeah. Although they when you look at them offhand, they look so different, but yet when you're applying them, they're all so similar.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That is awesome.
Do you have a favorite system? Do you have anything you have an affinity towards, or that you gravitate towards? Because like for me, it's like I do like Tai Chi and Shingi and Bagua, but like I've always really kind of loved Bagua kind of more. That's always been the one that I kind of like. But I love them all. But if I had to choose one,
there's a favorite child. Is this maybe the question?
I feel it sometimes goes through stages. Sure. At one point, a long time back, I just felt like my Wing Chun was lacking something. Like there wasn't, I didn't feel like it had the level that I wanted to be at it. And I felt the 7-star was much better. Since then, my 7-star, my Wing Chun has changed completely. So again, it's switched around. And then same with the Tai Chi, because I do a sticky hand, like the standard Wing Chun Chi Sao, but then I also do a Chi Sao that I do with add to my Wing Chun as well as to my Tai Chi, where I have the students have their hands in front, the other student has their hands on the other side, and we go around in a circle, go from inside to outside. Okay.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And then from there, a strike through, but try to strike through without the person feeling you coming through, because it's easy to feel when you've got contact to feel the person coming through. But if you're soft and you actually manipulate it correctly, you can get through without the person feeling it. And when they're doing that, I have them also move at the same speed, because it's easy to go at this speed and someone strikes through fast, you're going to get through every time. The idea is to both move at the same speed so that you can actually try and use technique to block it.
Yeah.
Use technique to flow out of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. That's super cool. That's super cool. So I get to steal Owen's question, and he gets to punch me later when I see him and type it, because it's my favorite question that Owen asks almost everyone. But I'm going to steal it from him. I was waiting for this episode.
Okay.
How do you feel having 3 separate systems? And if we use the classical parlance, which I think sometimes gets overrated, you have an internal system, you have a northern system, and you have a Southern system. Forget Northern internal, forget Southern, all that other stuff. How do you feel like these systems help inform each other? And how does that make an overall arcing dynamic of a complete Gong Fu or Kung Fu, if you will, Sifu?
Okay. Well, the way I look at it this way is you've got Wing Chun, which is close range.
Sure.
7-star, which is close to long range. So you've got your long range in there as well. Okay. And then you've got Tai Chi, which is a combination of both as well, depending on how you execute it.
Sure.
So I feel it sort of balances one another out, because where the one's lacking, the other one takes up. But also with the systems, I mean, the hard systems, you're learning to physically fight at the start. The Tai Chi, you're learning the energy stuff. Okay. What happens is, as you become more advanced later down the line, your Tai Chi then starts becoming more the physical stuff where you feel it, and the hard systems becomes more the internal. So Beautiful. It's a different way of training. I think the way it was designed originally was Tai Chi trains first the energy, then the fighting skill, whereas the hard systems train first the fighting skill, and then you develop the energy.
I love that. I love that. That's very clean and distinct. So you've been you've been thinking about that one for a while then, or at least training it.
That's the way I sort of try to put it across to my students.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was going to ask along the same lines, in your school, like in some schools that teach sort of multiple disciplines, they'll teach the internal stuff, and then they'll teach, the external stuff, quote unquote. So maybe parallel, or sometimes you have to do one before you can do the next one. So how do you structure your curriculum?
I judge it on my students. Okay. I don't, I mean, I do sashes specifically because Western society requires to have sashes so they can see what level they're at. But I know I can have 3 different students at different levels, and I know which one's better, which one needs this, or which one needs that kind of help. And I think as a good teacher, you understand your students. You can see what they're ready for and what they're not. And I also encourage my students, I don't set a limit on them. I don't say, oh, well, you've got to be here 6 months and you've got to finish this one before you can do that. If someone has an ability for something and they work on their stuff, I want to put more into that student. So the more that student works on what they're learning, the more I want to put into that student. So it really is up to the student to progress. I don't say, oh, you can only learn this after you've done 50 million things. Right. I really believe that if someone's interested in doing it and they're working hard at it, why should they be penalized for the person that doesn't work hard?
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. That's great.
And so in week to week, so Monday through Friday or Saturday or whatever your schedule looks like at your school, do you have like blocks where you'll teach you're teaching Mantis here or Tai Chi here and Liu Bafa here?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So what I do is I normally do like on Mondays and Wednesdays, I'll do Tai Chi. So we'll do Tai Chi those evenings. If we have a second class, then I'll do a hard system after that. And then same thing on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'll do hard systems first class and then Tai Chi second class. So it gives me a bit of a balance so that I'm not doing the same thing, hard systems the whole night long.
Right.
So it gives you a good chance to work on everything.
Oh, that's neat. Yep.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And here's a question for you. Have you ever, as students and as teachers, we all have different challenges, right?
Yes.
And I think a great teacher is always still a good student. Have you ever tapped a student on the shoulder, maybe in 7-star, and been like, you know what I think would help you? Have you ever suggested this to a student? You know what I think would help you? Why don't you go to the Tai Chi class for a couple of weeks? I think this might give you a different body expression and a feeling to take the next step in your Mantis? Or have you ever tapped a Tai Chi guy on the shoulder and been like, you know what, or young lady, and have you said, hey, maybe do a couple of weeks of the Wing Chun. I think a different feeling and structure and flavor might adjust your Tai Chi the way you would like it to be worked. Have you ever done that, Sifu?
Yeah, what I do is I actually do encourage them to try the different systems. So I normally say to them, come to a Wing Chun class. So every Saturday I normally have early morning, I have a Tai Chi class and a hard system class as well. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of times the Tai Chi people will come to the first class, and then I say, come, you're welcome to stay for the hard system class. And I've had quite a few discover, they like this, and they've ended up starting the hard system classes.
That's great.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's great. That's great. Would you tell us a little bit about, because you can't tell his whole story because we might get him on the show, but tell us about Sifu Derek and your relationship, how you met him, and what is it like training with him?
It's really cool. Really cool training for him. I first met him was on my first China trip in 1993. We went over to Hong Kong, where we trained with Sifu Lee Kam Wing, and then we went to Frearson, and that's when we started doing Yang style Tai Chi and the Wing Chun, Frearson Wing Chun. And actually, because Sifu Derek's fairly tall as well, he's most probably 6 foot or just under 6 foot. But when we were studying with Sifu Ao in Frearson, learning the form, because we're tall, in some of the movements he had come lower, 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 and we as low as all the other people, but because we're taller, it looks like we are higher up, but we're actually lower than them relative to our height. So that was always what's name? It was always we were too high. We had to go low. So that was quite a story with that. And then and obviously Sifu Ao unfortunately passed away quite a while back, but we actually studied with his son in Frearson, and his son is really a good teacher as well.
Oh, that's so lucky. Not Sifu passed away, but that the next generation is also skilled. Yes. That's great.
So that is really nice. That's because I know his son and his daughter actually teaches as well. So in our group when we're over there. So that is really nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Anyway, and that was the first time I met Sifu Derek. And then that, because he obviously organized that, and then he had been out to South Africa a number of times before we left South Africa, training with him. And then once I came over here, once I got established, then we've been bringing Sifu Derek over here to give training and do seminars as well.
Where's home for him? Is he UK?
He's in the UK, yes.
Okay.
He was actually on. He used to train as well with Bose Mark.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes. And so he's been right there at the start. I think he was on the first trip she did to China, where she took Westerners to do Kung Fu.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, we might have to get him on the show because I'd like to hear that
definitely.
Story. That's great.
He is a wonderful teacher.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Any good stories? You just gave us one with Sifu Ao. Could you give us another one either with Sifu Ao or Sifu Lun? And what were these gentlemen like as human beings? You know, their personality, their character. What was that like?
They were really nice. They were good people. I don't know how else to say that.
That's great.
They were really great people. They enjoyed teaching. And I mean, you could always, even with Sifu Lee Kam Wing, I mean, you could always, if you're practicing something and you're working on it, he sees you working on it, he'll correct you and say, oh no, you need to change this or do this slightly differently. whereas as opposed to just leaving you to do your own thing.
Good.
And I think that's general with teachers all over. I think if the teacher sees you really interested in doing what they're showing, they want to give you more.
Yep.
That's great. That's great. Is Sifu Lun, does he have, I mean, besides you guys, is there anybody over in Foshan that's still teaching that was maybe one of his higher level students?
His son was, just before COVID, when we went over, we were studying with Sifu Lun's son. But I think during COVID, obviously a lot of places ended up closing down. Same with here. So that affected a lot of, training and things like that.
Right.
Yeah, we were lucky we survived COVID. So
yeah,
but yeah,
knocking on wood over here. Knocking on wood. Well, yes. We've taken up almost an hour and a half of your time. Owen, did you have any other questions?
I was going to ask a little bit about how Sifu Lum taught his system. Is it kind of the same way in which you teach your system, or have you I know the material is the same.
The forms themselves I teach identical. I try to stick exactly to that. So when we do the forms, we do the same thing. The drills that we did, I'll do those same drills. And then any other drills that I've picked up, I add into our system as well. So in other words, and I normally tell the students, okay, these ones I got shown directly from Sifu Lun or from Sifu Derek. Cool. These ones are ones I've put in there because I feel that they'll benefit you. You'll get something out of them.
That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have a lot of similar things in some of the Bagua systems that I've studied, and I've gotten pieces from different people. And so as I teach them, I do a very similar thing. I try to sort of give people the provenance of a particular drill or a set of drills, or if it's a conceptual thing that may be slightly different in the system from one of the other teachers. Yeah. So that's great. I love hearing that. Yeah.
One of the things. Go ahead, Sifu.
I was just going to say, because of I was just thinking about the sparring just on the what's name, is that I know you see a lot of things about people sparring and like you beat one another up, but I really feel like when you're sparring in that, you want to work with your partner where your partner will want to work with you again, because you can't try your stuff. And execute your stuff if you're worried about the person hitting you all the time, because you can't apply it. You can't learn how to apply it. And that's the thing. And it's about sort of having respect and feeling for that other person as well, because you're both learning. Yeah. And I know when you said you drive buses and how angry you get at the people. The way I always think about it, I always think like, okay, that's my mom or my brother or someone in the other car cutting you off. That way you'll give them a lot more leeway. And I think if you just go around that way in life, if you just sort of take that approach in life, you appreciate other people more, and then you don't get angry with other people as much.
Yeah. Yep. I thought of a Wing Chun question. I'm glad I thought of this. So I know my Hong Kong relatives and the Yip Man family, they break the 3 unarmed forms down into sections. Like a lot of them will break them down into 3 sections of Sianam Tao, and then they're focusing on those sections for like topics. Maybe it covers a topic. You know what I mean? The Wong Q line that I'm lucky to practice, we break it down into 5 sections with Chum Q and Sianam Tao. Do you guys break down the forms into sections?
I do break down, teach them in separate little pieces as such, but also then applying those pieces, understanding each piece of those sections.
Yeah.
So that they know execute it, and how the hands, how to apply it with moving, because especially Silum Tao, because you're standing still. And a lot of those movements, you have to be moving. And the thing is, most people, when they're fighting, they're not standing still. So those were designed to develop a certain structure when you bring your arms up, and then to maintain that structure when you're moving, so that you still keep those arms in as you're going through. So yes, we do break those down and teach them specifically like that, and with moving as well.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And this was awesome. There's so much that we covered. I'm actually glad that we started with the Yang stuff and then went to the Mantis and then kind of finished off with the sprinkles of Wing Chun on the cake at the end. Is there anything else you would like to share with the audience today, Sifu? Maybe a message, or, we're going to get your contact material and everything when we put the show out. But is there anything that you'd like to share with the audience, or you feel like, maybe the world of Chinese martial arts needs to hear, or anything like that, as a teacher, as a student? What do you think?
The thing that I think most is that I hope more people can study martial arts, actually go and put some time and effort into it, because otherwise we're going to lose a lot of it. I am passing it on to my son. And once he has kids, I can pass it on to them as well. And hopefully we'll spread it through our family. But the only way these systems are going to last is if people actually put them out there and actually put the time in to actually study them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well said.
Yep.
Thank you so much for your time today, Sifu. Oh, and did you have anything?
No. I was just going to say thank you so much. It's been great, and I always enjoy these conversations, and I appreciate your openness.
Thank you. I hope I did okay.
I was just going to say,
it was great.
If you're wondering how you did, this was awesome, and thank you so much. Okay, and we can't wait to share with our people. Sifu Jacque, have a blessed day, my friend.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sifu.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.